प्रॉब्लम है कि वो बीइंग योर ओन बॉस कहना बहुत अच्छा लगता है, पर जब आपको खुद का बॉस बनना पड़ता है तो इसका मतलब ये है कि खुद पे डंडा चलाना है।
If a customer comes to us through our platform, उसको सर्विस बहुत बढ़िया मिलनी, मतलब उसकी नीड फुलफिल होना चाहिए। 2014 में आफ्टर द इलेक्शन फूड टेक ऑल ऑफ सडन बिकेम द बज़वर्ड।
I generally tell people that there was a world pre-2015 and post-2015 in the restaurant tech in general. Product ठीक बनाया है, प्रॉब्लम सही सॉल्व कर रहे हैं, पर जिसकी प्रॉब्लम है उससे पूछना भूल गए कि उसको प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी है नहीं करनी।
I think it's important to be naive and foolish because that's how you get to sort of do what you want to do. Hi, I'm Ankit Mehrotra. I'm the co-founder of Dineout. We are the largest consumer tech platform on the dining side for restaurants. We work with around 25,000 restaurants, and you can reserve tables, you can get discounts across these restaurants in India. And we are now part of the Swiggy family because Dineout got acquired by Swiggy in July 22.
Hi, I'm Ashish Tulsian. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Posist. We are a restaurant tech company. We power the entire operation lifecycle of a restaurant, mostly enterprise restaurant chains, working with 20,000 restaurants in 52 countries.
So, Ashish, obviously, by the way, me and Ashish, the interesting thing about us is that I think Posist started in Jan 12, sorry, it's been a long time. And Dineout started in February 2012. So we started off roughly exactly the same time. So we've seen each other, we've been friends for a long time. We've seen each other grow. Obviously, as Ashish mentioned, he operates in the B2B part of the sale. So he's inside the restaurant, and my job is to make sure that we're able to get consumers into the restaurant. So I think that's the exact differentiation between what Dineout does and what Posist does. And obviously, we've had great journeys for the last 11 years. The fact is that we're sitting here after 11 years means that we've done something right. But two very different journeys, and happy to share some light and talk a lot more about that.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think the interesting thing to start off would be probably we talk a little bit about our co-founders, right? So I'll talk about mine first, and then Ashish can. So I started Dineout with 4 friends, me, Sahil, Nikhil, and Vivek. And we've known each other since we were 5 years old, right? So we literally went to nursery together, and then so from nursery to class 12, and then we went our separate ways, had our individual careers for roughly 7-8 years, and then we moved back. So I personally moved back from London. I was an investment banker in London. And then I moved back to India in 2011 to start Dineout. And Ashish also had, he is, I think, one of the rare few in the startup ecosystem today who has his wife as a co-founder. So
Absolutely.
A little bit more on that.
No, I think there are quite a few now. D2C universe is quite full.
Not 11 years back.
Not 11 years back. So my co-founder is, of course, my wife Sakshi. But we go back to college. So I started my first company while I was still in second year because I was barely, getting through engineering. And Sakshi was actually, was there to study for whatever it's worth. She also topped, our college, and I think she was a ranker in university. So technically she did that. We got married, and then Sakshi ran a web development services company while I was running a telecom value-added services company. That was back in 2005 to 11. And then after exiting that, we ended up investing in a restaurant, built our current product today. The first version was built for our restaurant. And then me and Sakshi realized that complementary temperament, complementary skill set. And I think while she was running her web development company, I realized that she's a taskmaster. She is extremely structured, meticulous, diligent, all the good things one should have, the ideal entrepreneur should have. And I was absolutely gut-driven, a little crazy, creative, saving the day last moment sort of problem solver, jugadu fully. And I think in that we got a chance to work together with each other while having clear boundaries to be out of each other's hair. While, I was helping her company figuring out stuff where she was stuck, while she was helping me structure things a little better, which were, probably not structured. So co-founding Posist was kind of a very easy slide-in decision because we already knew कि हम दोनों क्या क्या कर सकते हैं. And
you guys got married before or after Posist?
No, we were married before. We got married in 2009. And for 3 years, she was running a web development company while I was running mine. And 2012 is when we started Posist.
I think we had so I still don't know whether, it's difficult, which is more difficult to have your wife as your co-founder, to have your childhood friends as co-founders. I think same challenges, different.
See, unless you're sleeping in the same bed with your childhood friend, then I think I will win this, because whenever people ask me that should I start company with my spouse, I generally tell them, caution, stunts shown here have been performed by professionals with years of experience. Don't try this at home.
No, but I think I still remember. I think when we were starting up, every single person, from our parents to friends to family, everyone is like, "यार, तुम अपनी दोस्ती खत्म कर दोगे, friends के साथ मत, don't make them co-founders, right?" But I'm glad to say that we survived 11 years of sort of.
No, but it's commendable, because it is difficult.
Yeah.
Matlab, I can 101% say that if you're able to run. If you're able to, co-founder तो बहुत ही dangerous zone है. Even if you're able to deal, do business with each other in any capacity, in friendship, that speaks volumes about both the parties, their trust, their equation, and authenticity in that. Because there is no other way. या तो आप equally हरामखोर हो, या आप equally अच्छे हो. There is no midway in that.
And here there were 4 of us, so you can imagine the
big deal,
the challenge. But I think the one thing I distinctly remember, going all the way back to 2011, when we sort of made the decision to start up and do Dineout, was, so I was in London, so I had never worked in India before this. Sahil was in the US, not worked in India. Vivek was in the Merchant Navy right after school, so he had also never worked in India. So out of the 4 of us, only Nikhil, who was in Delhi, had worked in India, right? So we all, and I was an investment banker. So we all, when we were quitting our jobs and coming back to India after being out of India so I was out of India for 9 years, from 2002 to 2011, right? Being out of India for 9 years. I think our parents, so normally when you start up, and this is 2011, remind you, when startup कुछ होता नहीं था, तो we didn't have to convince one set of parents, we had to convince 4 set of parents. और दूसरा प्रॉब्लम क्या हो गया था, दैट हमारे पेरेंट्स ने 2 चीजें बोली कि भाई तुमसे शादी कौन करेगा.
You were not married?
No, we were not married. So
nice.
for us, and the interesting bit is that for us, right, we were not married, and our parents को नहीं फर्क पड़ा आप स्टार्टअप कर रहे हो, क्या कर रहे हो, जॉब नौकरी छोड़ गया, तुमसे शादी कौन करेगा. एंड unwritten, so it wasn't a written rule or something, but within 1 year of starting Dineout, 3 of us were married. ये मतलब ये हो गया, because then our parents were like, बेटा अब तुम भी तुम्हारी
before you're saving
before
euphoria of London return, US return goes away.
शादी वादी कर लो, किसी और का problem, it's someone else's to deal with.
I think I started in 2005, and मतलब अगर 2011 में startup नहीं होता था, 2005 में तो बिल्कुल
भी नहीं होता था.
Startup word भी नहीं था. This was not a term that was being used, and but I think in my case it was quite chill. I think 2009 when we got married.
हो गया ना, 4 साल हो गया था. Yeah.
Sakshi, नहीं. So I was doing well for my time, and I think Sakshi's parents, she also came from business family. So it was quite a, but of course it was their trust on Sakshi.
Then of course. Yeah, I think for us, so that was I think the major challenge. The other thing was obviously, yaar, bhai, of all the things, restaurant industry kyun? So at least personally for me, and I think for Dineout, the story goes a long way back that so when I was in London, Sahil was in the US, we used to use platforms like OpenTable, TopTable, etc. But every time we used to come back to India, यार हमें वही fight होती थी, यार बाहर कहाँ खाना जाए. वो मैं 4 लोग से phone करके, used to ask your friends where to go, and it was just such a small thing, and we were seeing how the markets were developing outside India, right? How London was evolving, how US was evolving, and I think the pivotal moment for me was that in 2010 November, OpenTable had bought out a UK platform called TopTable, and it just so happened that by chance I was working on that deal from the seller side, and that's when I actually entered and saw the restaurant dynamics for the first time.
You also saw कि सब पैसा बना रहे हैं हमें छोड़कर.
Exactly. वो तो investment banking, the worst period in investment banking, 2008 to 2009-10.
Yeah.
The financial crisis, somehow I survived that, but so going back, bro, surviving the 2008-9 period, it was like there were people with 20 years of experience ready to work for me, for my job, and I had just 4 years of experience.
Correct.
At half, one third, probably 1/3 the salary. So that made me realize कि भाई हो ही नहीं सकता है, कब तक चलेंगे? 16 घंटे काम कर रहे हो तो अपने लिए कर लो यार कुछ. I think that was the pivotal moment for us. And when that deal happened, that was my first introduction to the restaurant economics. And that is when I realized that actually restaurants, if done well, make a lot of money, and there is enough money for them to go around to actually spend. And I still remember, so OpenTable was charging $1 per cover per cover, yeah. And Top Table was charging £1 per cover. So it was a decent amount of money. We thought we will copy that. तो हम भी इंडिया आए, हमने बोला हम 50 रुपए पर कवर लेके इंडिया आके reality hit us. Coming back and all of that, I think when we started off, right, we wanted to be an online platform because था यार मैं तो UK में इंटरनेट से ही सब करता हूँ, तो हमने भी बोला यार मैं ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म बनाएंगे, तो सब कर आके आई रिमेंबर स्टिल वी लॉन्च्ड ऑन February 29th 2012 with 75 restaurants in Delhi. That was when we launched. And we create dineout.co.in वेबसाइट बनाई, बहुत बढ़िया करा, सब करा, और अब हम रेडी हो गए. बट 1st March 2012 को हमारी, because we realized यार इंडिया में तो ऑनलाइन होता ही नहीं है. So from 1st March to 10th March we realized that यार कॉल सेंटर के बिना इंडिया में तो कुछ होएगा ही नहीं. So that first 10 days of
मैं other side of the story बताता हूँ, not mine but my perception of you guys. I remember कुछ तो your story या किसी ने, या I don't remember, but किसी तो startup media में या कहीं पे तुमने PR की होगी. I remember I think we were barely 3 months into Posist, and this reality was hitting us just now that we have built a cloud-based, browser-based POS for restaurant, for which we are trying to charge annually. And when we are going out in the market, people are not asking कि क्या है, people are asking क्यों है. तो हमारा POS है, ऑनलाइन है, तो ऑनलाइन क्यों है, इंटरनेट क्यों लगाएंगे, हमारा तो बहुत बढ़िया है, इंस्टॉल हो जाता है, इंटरनेट की जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ती. तो वी वर लाइक कि हमारे फीचर्स वर एक्चुअली नॉट फीचर्स, वर द प्रॉब्लम्स. एंड व्हाइल दिस रियलिटी वाज हिटिंग अस हार्ड कि कुछ तो गलत हो गया है, क्योंकि प्रोडक्ट ठीक बनाया है, प्रॉब्लम सही सॉल्व कर रहे हैं, पर जिसकी प्रॉब्लम है उससे पूछना भूल गया कि उसको प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी है नहीं करनी है. सो इसी बीच में मुझे याद है कि किसी ने मुझे पता नहीं मार्च में या कब, बट 2012 अर्ली किसी ने मुझे तुम्हारा आर्टिकल दिखाया और मैं पढ़ के हंसने लग गया. मैं बोला ये तो हमसे पहले मर जाएंगे. हमारा तो फिर भी कोई यूटिलिटी है जिसमें वो रोज सुबह लॉग इन करके कुछ करेगा इसके ऊपर, इनका तो बिल्कुल ही कुछ नहीं हो पाएगा, यहाँ एक भी रुपया नहीं मिलेगा. Which is technically the Indian reality in 2023 as well. From a, and we'll talk more about it, but from I still believe, and I would love to know your perspective on that later, I still believe that it is actually very difficult to ask $1 per seated customer from a restaurant today, like even on success basis. I still think in 2023,
obviously we changed that model a long time.
As I said, I would love
of course we changed that, but yeah, I'm just going back to that time that we, I think it's important to be naive and foolish. Because that's how you get to sort of do what you want to do, and that's what we were in 2012 when we thought कि यार रेस्टोरेंट इंडस्ट्री को हम लोग लेके आएंगे आपके लिए, आप आओ तो हमारे पास. वो बोलते कि मैं 4 साल से GK1 में बैठा हूँ, मैं 4 साल से बैठा हूँ, तो क्या लेके 40 साल से एक रेस्टोरेंटर बैठा है, आप क्या लेके आओगे मेरे लिए कवर. सो आई थिंक दैट, एंड देन ऑनलाइन 2012 in India, right, it was so difficult. So I think our first moment of truth जब awakening हुई, I think was कि यार इंडिया में ऑनलाइन नहीं है, कॉल सेंटर चाहिए. तो हम लोग को उस टाइम कॉल सेंटर कुछ आता नहीं था यार, कॉल सेंटर वन सेंटर खोला. फिर हमने रियलाइज किया भाई इंडियन, देन हमें रियलाइज हुआ सो दैट हाउ डिफरेंट UK एंड द US इज, बिकॉज वहां पर ट्रुथ ऑनेस्टी पे काफी चीजें चलती है. यहाँ पे होता है कि यार मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि यार 100 बंदे गए आपके पास, और कंफर्म बोल रहा हूँ मैं 100 बंदे गए रेस्टोरेंट में, उसके बाद बोल रहा है नहीं यार 50 ही आए. Those are the initial early days. That's when we realized that we need to actually spend a lot of time with the restaurants, trying to understand कि भाई चलो आपको और क्या चाहिए, how can we solve your problem. I think that's when we realized marketing was obviously a big problem for restaurants. So I think the early phase of our journey 2012, 13, 14 went in trying to then understand कि यार restaurants के लिए क्या बनाना है. यार उस टाइम ना हमारे को actually we didn't know anything about funding and all क्या होती है, हम तो यार एक ही चीज, we used to focus only on one thing, and that I think you can say was because of my time in the UK or Sahil's time in the US, where irrespective of whatever happens, if a customer comes to us through a platform, चाहे वो वेबसाइट पे आए, फोन करके आए, उसको सर्विस बहुत बढ़िया मिलनी, मतलब उसकी नीड फुलफिल होना चाहिए, एंड दैट इज व्हाट एक्चुअली लेड अस टू our first round of funding. And I think that's where also sort of we've had quite different journeys, that we've had, you know, multiple rounds of fundings and acquisitions and etc. And you were still doing it bootstrap in a way after 11 years. So I think that's also very different, and it's great to have different perspectives on that. But I think that is when, so in August 2012 is when we had our first round of funding, and the interesting story behind that is that it was one of our customers who had been using the platform, 2-3 बार उसने use करा था, and काफी अच्छा लगा था उसको. We were able to, you know, every time he had a great experience, he was recognized in the restaurant, he got the discount, and he was like amazed कि यार अच्छा मुझे सिर्फ free मिला, I'm just booking through them and मुझे discount मिल रहा था कुछ. So he wanted to understand everything, and that's when the whole discussion sort of moved into that aspect funding, and from there on I think that is when our parents also probably realized कि यार ये बच्चे कुछ तो कर रहे हैं, कोई और पैसे डाल रहा है इनमें, तो फिर इन्होंने कुछ तो करा है. But yeah, I think that's when I think 2012 August, when we had our first round of funding, and that's when we also got a bit serious about, yeah, chalo, let's try to figure out, get in the nitty-gritties of it, and try to sort of figure out that part of the business. I think the interesting part between Dineout and Posist is that there was a period briefly in between where we also had all this entire B2B ambitions, and we end up acquiring a couple of companies, and we'll talk about this. But I think for us, that B2C focus in the early days sort of happened. That's what we were focused upon, because we were actually looking at, as you know, from a very different angle for the restaurant. यार restaurant खोल लिया है आपने, आप रेस्टोरेंटर हो, आपने रेस्टोरेंट खोल लिया, आपने लोकेशन, आपने सब चीज कर लिया, अब आपको कस्टमर चाहिए इस रेस्टोरेंट को चलाने के लिए, तो let's just focus on that and try to solve that. And I think that led us to our first, so we were lucky enough that in 2014 we actually end up getting acquired by Times Internet, April 2014, but yet we managed to run it independently within Times Internet as a Times Internet portfolio company, and that worked out very well. The other interesting thing is that 2014 met the Indian startup ecosystem, the taps opened up after the elections, and I think we saw a lot of companies come in this entire B2C space in the rest. So I think food tech all of a sudden became the buzzword. We all know of a lot of companies who've come in.
My understanding of that is, I generally, when I discuss, I generally tell people that there was a world pre-2015 and post-2015 in the restaurant tech in general. But that also is not only for restaurant tech. I think a lot of things changed, right? Because Android was actually
exactly
the world. Internet in India was, coming up in a big way. Paytm, happened in a big way. So logistics companies happened thanks to Flipkart's e-cart, and then all the other players who were trying to get there. Hyperlocal was the keyword.
Hyperlocal became the keyword.
And all of these things came together so interestingly within 2015 and 16 that when I look at our Posist's life, there is like a very clear stark difference between pre-15 and post-15.
Yeah,
it's very different.
No, I think same for us, right? I think I remember we launched our mobile app in 2015, and that for us actually from a consumer journey became a pivotal moment, because all of a sudden everything went through the roof, right? Traction, users. I still remember that after a year of starting Dineout, we had reached around 20,000 customers a month or something like that. हमने बोला यार हमने बहुत बड़ा कर लिया, and then post we went live with the app. We started growing like 20,000 a month, adding 20,000 new customers a month. And today, I think, today we do close to around 5 million covers or something, 4.5 million covers a month, right? So obviously that journey has been long, and I said being part of the Swiggy ecosystem has obviously sort of helped as well. But yeah, I think 2015-16 is when we also realized कि यार एक तो B2C कर रहे हैं, वो फाइन है, ये 50 रुपए that 50 rupees per cover model will not work. And that's when we actually pivoted our entire sort of business model to actually thinking what is the least common denominator between when a customer and his visit to the restaurant is the bill payment. And that's when we thought, okay, we need to actually, every time a bill is paid, or we have to get a customer to pay the bill, and somehow get a commission on that. And that's when we sort of moved away from that, from this 50 rupees charge and moved to a commission model. And that's when actually we hit sort of a growth period. But I think leading up to that, the first few years, from a personal perspective, from a company perspective, I think we've seen obviously a lot of ups and downs. Survive kaise karenge and all of those things, right? I think it was those periods. I don't know how it was for you during those initial, especially not raising money, right? Especially being bootstrapped.
मुझे ऐसा लगता है I mean I at least don't look at it as initial few years versus later years, and I'll qualify that. One is that वो entrepreneurial stupidity and optimism में ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं होता. Thankfully, that's why I feel that for second time entrepreneurs in my friend circle, I see how hard it gets because it really becomes very difficult to fool yourself again. Right? If we knew
what we know now,
what will it take? If we knew, how crazy the ride is going to be, I don't think anybody in the right state of mind is going to enter into it. But then, optimism or stupidity disguised as optimism takes over, and then you go. So I think we have always taken 1 year at a time. That's the truth of the matter. And it doesn't mean that we always felt कि अच्छा 1 साल नहीं चलेगा तो बंद कर देंगे. I think बंद कर देंगे तो प्लान में ही नहीं है. तो प्लान बी तो कभी था ही नहीं. However stupid it may sound. But I think for us early years were really, about making sure that we make revenue. I think for me, the one arrow that points to the North Star is if my ideal customer is paying me some money, it doesn't matter what money, but if my ideal customer is paying me some money, तो मुझे लगता है कि यार मेरा जो एरो है ना, ये नॉर्थ स्टार की तरफ पॉइंट कर रहा है, चलते रहेंगे, देखेंगे आगे क्या होगा. अगर मेरा आइडियल कस्टमर मेरे को पैसे देने से मना कर दे फॉर द प्राइमरी सर्विस दैट आई एम ऑफरिंग देम, देन आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन दैट वेट, देयर इज समथिंग रॉन्ग. इधर इसको हमारी बात समझ नहीं आ रही या हमें इसकी नहीं आ रही है, एंड वी डेफिनेटली आर एट डिफरेंट पेजेस. I think that obsession allowed us to have some faith in the process that, okay, restaurant owners are paying. As I said early on, we realized that most of the restaurant owners just said ki, installed solution works, we don't even need it, They basically rejected us just at the face of it. Our existence, the reason of our existence was rejected, not the product. Product तो demo ही नहीं हुआ. But then we also saw these new age restaurateurs. तो हमारे early customers दो तरह के लोग थे. पहले new age restaurateurs who were young, who were fresh,
second generation,
who had not second generation, first generation, fresh, young, no understanding of what traditional restaurant is. So very very open to experiment, wanted to have the latest stuff. And the second ones, which were actually more interesting, were the second generation ones who were joining the business and who wanted to replace Papa with POS. They were absolutely clear कि यार ये dad sitting on cash counter in menace and we need to get rid of it. I think as soon as we realized that, we became so focused that we told our sales team that as soon as you find anybody who does not match these two profiles, run away. Not interested, not talking. Even if there is a potential opportunity, don't. We'll do it later. वो कहीं नहीं जा रहा है. For us, it became continuous effort to make sure that हमारे जो resources हैं उनको efficiently कैसे use किया जा सकता है. And for me, I think that remains true till today. I don't really look at कि there is such a large market and I need 500 salespeople, otherwise we are going to lose it. Life always occurred to us as quite reverse कि यार हमारे पास ना 5 लोग के लिए resource है और ये 5 लोग या तो 5000 locations पे जाके they can bang their head and die, or we can figure out how to filter those 50 out of 5000 which actually are going to convert, 90% chance, and only send these 5 people to those 50. And each iteration, as customers started coming in, revenue was always there. I think the solidification and compounding. So हमारे लिए conclusion of life is compounding. There is no other way. Compounding in the product, compounding in the revenue. And I think that also allowed us to continuously bootstrap, because ऐसा नहीं है that we never needed money. We need money even today because ambition is always going to be bigger than your resources. But when you have revenue coming from your ideal customer, when they renew, renewal is like super sweet. Renewal से बड़ा sweet fruit possible ही नहीं है, because that not only reinforces value of your product, it reinforces relationship with that customer. second year, third year, fourth year, if a customer is continuing with you, you have definitely done something right. It's a separate question whether you can scale it 100x or not. It will always remain a question. But you have done something right, is solidified. You don't need to worry about it. So it kind of sets, I mean, in my view, it kind of sets a step कि अगर आप गिरे भी ना तो इतना ही गिरेंगे. ये जहां तक पहुंच चुके हैं, आप मुझे उससे नीचे तो नहीं ले जा सकते हो. I think these were the core beliefs which are relevant in 2023 because for us in different new markets, these are still early years.
Yeah.
And any market that we enter where people don't know us, we don't know people, most of the times we don't even know the language. The only tenets that keep us very, very strongly, fit, we stay put, we have our own understanding of that market. It only happens on these tenets कि अच्छा इस market में paying customer मिलेगा क्या, हमारी profile का customer मिलेगा क्या, पहला मिलेगा क्या, will that customer continue with us without any friction, and if they renew, then तो we double down on that market that okay, maybe our qualification is low, maybe we are not able to expand fast enough, but there is market, there is a customer who paid, who renewed. So for us, last 11 years, I'm yet to feel that, oh, it's been 11 years. And I'm not saying this, humbly. It's literally that the continuous renewal of challenge in terms of new markets, new geographies, new modules. So if I give you a gist of the journey, in 2012, we started as a POS company, a point of sale solution, which is a industry term for a billing solution, billing software. Then we grew into back-end inventory control, then kitchen management solution. Then we built a CRM, an integration layer, which integrates Swiggy, Zomato, Paytm to all different kinds of products today. And then this journey also became, different in a way that we started with SMB restaurants in India. We understood them well. Then we went to mid-market. Then we went to enterprises in India. Then we realized that there are no enterprises in India. India का enterprise market इतना thin है. यहाँ पे जिसके 100 restaurant हैं, they are bots.
Yeah.
Right? In the US, and I'm not trying to compare, in a bad way, but in the US, the maturity of the market is so much that I'm legit telling you, there was a prospect who came to meet me at a conference, and he was very humble, and we had not heard his brand's name, some Midwest, Mid-America sort of brand. So he kept on talking to us, and he was a Subway submarines sandwich, brand. So there is this, prospect in US who came to meet me, and he was very humble. He was talking about he was running a submarine sandwich chain. And then at the end, I said, I don't know your brand. It's in Mid-America. We have not been there. How many stores do you have? He said, oh, we are small. I said, no, I understand, but like how big? He said, we are close to 900 stores. And, there was a colleague of mine beside me this was his first time in US. He was jaw-dropped. He was like, what a humble man. So when he walked, away, my colleague said, यार क्या humble आदमी था यार, क्या 900 store और इतना सिर झुका के, shoulders in, talking so humbly, calling himself small. I said, you know what? ये झूठ नहीं बोल रहा था. ये actually छोटा है. He said, what do you mean? I said, who's the competitor in submarine sandwiches? He said, Subway. I said, how many stores does Subway have? 38,000 globally, 18,000 of them are in US. I said, when your market leader in your space has 38,000 globally and 18,000 only in US, 900 छोटा ही होता है और उसको humble होना उसका choice नहीं है, ये compulsion है. So I think the depth of the market itself, I mean, imagine this person, their understanding of what it takes to run 1,000 stores, their understanding there is talent available in the market who has operationalized
absolutely. I think
20,000 stores.
No, I think what you are saying is absolutely right. In fact, in our journey also, I think the first point which I 100% agree with is that revenue ana. So what we realized is that when we were starting on the initial years, right, even if a customer owes 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees, it's important to ensure that we get it at the end of the month. And I still remember, Vivek, and this is a very interesting story that we always sort of tell, people who join us that why is it important to chase every single rupee is that, so this guy is one of the largest, from an India context, one of the largest Delhi restaurateurs, around 40 odd restaurants in Delhi. And the second check that he signed that he owed us was around 2,000 odd rupees. And he's sitting in his 1 crore, like उसने बोला आप बेटा के पैसे ले लो. So Vivek, my co-founder, went to Khan Market to take that, and he's sitting in this Jag. So he goes and this is 2013, I think. He goes and sits in this Jaguar, which is that uncle's car, and restaurant owner's car, and it's that 1 CR or something like that. And he's about to cut a check for 2,000 rupees, and he's saying कि नहीं बेटा 2,000 तो ठीक है. So 2,000 is roughly what 40 odd customers at that point in time, and he's trying to say नहीं बेटा मेरे रेस्टोरेंट वाले बोल रहे हैं मे बी शायद 30 ही आए थे बेटा, तो आप थोड़ा ये ज्यादा तो नहीं ले रहे मेरे से. So that's the first time we realized कि doesn't matter how big or small the money is, it's important to make sure they get it, because you have to develop it as a habit in your partner's mind to ensure that we're able to get the money. It's a discipline. The other thing that I think is very, at least from our perspective, what we realized, and we were very sure, is we actually wanted to focus on the second generation restaurateurs, because those second generation restaurateurs were the ones who were coming after having studied outside India or were across different parts of the world, and they'd seen platforms like Dineout. And we had to make sure, and they understood why is it important, right? Because, and that's when, this 2015-16 phase was happening, when, all of a sudden, apps had come out, the mobile ecosystem had grown, people wanted to spend money on marketing, but from a restaurant's perspective, what was important was that there was actually no way to actually have any sort of verified source of marketing, and to actually, attribution was not possible for them, right? They would have spent money on ads, on television, or not on television, but news, radio, or print, or radio, whatever it was. And there was no way to attribute. So I think during that part of our journey, Dineout did that attribution part really well. And I think the 2016-17 is when we realized that while B2C is very important for a restaurateur, that we need to actually understand the B2B part as well. And we need to get inside the restaurant to the heart of the operations, because the biggest problem, and it still happens today, which amazes me to a certain extent, is that if a restaurant is not using a fully optimized or a tech platform, they still do not know who their customers are, right? Think of any chain or a large restaurant who's got multiple outlets. It's impossible for them today also to recognize, how many times has Ankit visited either their outlet, or overall, how many times have I visited multiple outlets of that same brand. And until unless they recognize the customer, nothing happens. So we felt that at that point in time here, we are actually making sure that customers are walking into the restaurant, but the backend doesn't support the restaurant recognizing the customer. And
I think that's where POS integration.
So we went on that journey with POS integrations. We realized that, and this is again, it's important to understand, this is 2017-18, and POS is a very fragmented space. So I remember we went over a period of 2 years as Dineout. I integrated with around 15 or 16 of the so-called largest POS guys out there. And then we realized कि यार ऐसे तो ना हो पाएगा. And that is when we actually ended up, first we acquired a CRM platform called Interesto in 2016, which was actually helping restaurants recognize their customers. And then we ended up acquiring Torcus in 2018, which was a POS. And we felt, so we wanted to build a layer that, right from the tech, so the POS to the CRM to the B2C is all integrated together. I think we were, for a few years we did that, and then obviously we all know COVID happened. And it all...
I have a question. My opinion on this B2B2C, problem. So every B2C player in the restaurant space, from Zomato to Swiggy to Dineout, everybody tried to, either build or acquire a POS company. And we had that chat back in 2017-18.
Yes.
When you guys...
well, out in the market, yeah.
You were out in the market looking for a POS company to acquire. How did that play out? Because, my opinion was that a B2C company should just stick to what they're doing. They should not dive into B2B, and true for B2B company diving into B2C as well, because my belief is that apple does not fall far away from the tree. I strongly feel that there is a reason why Google does not understand social, why Facebook probably does not understand operating systems, why Microsoft did not understand search, while the same engineers, same mecca of tech, but very, very different core DNAs, in the company.
No, I think that, I remember that conversation that we had, and I think that's an interesting point. I felt that for us, so during that period, we went through multiple acquisitions where we were acquiring to strengthen up the B2C. We acquired a couple of B2C companies, and to strengthen up B2B, we acquired a couple of B2B companies. The holy grail for us was that a customer walks into a restaurant, the restaurateur recognizes him, is able to pull up his past visit across, across that chain, and is able to service him accordingly. Because till date, the biggest problem that we feel that a restaurant faces is that the POS, all said and done, is a black box which doesn't know the customer. So Ashish is sitting on table number 5 and could order 10,000 rupees worth of food, but the POS doesn't know who Ashish is. And the same way, the CRM doesn't know that Ashish, what he orders, right? It's just that Ashish is 6th visit. So we wanted to tie it all together. So I think over a period of time, after we acquired Inresto and then we acquired Torcus, for 2 years. So this was 2018. So 2018-19, we went on a restaurant acquisition spree. We were able to grow Torcus to around 15,000 odd restaurants. But again, I think what you said earlier was very important, that renewals, right? So a lot of those restaurants also, as you said, enterprise is a very thin layer in India. That's when we realized that during that journey, we realized that why enterprise is important for SaaS and why standalone in the long tail actually hurts SaaS, because they could come up with 100 restaurants will come up with 100 different customizations, and all of them feel that their request is as important as the other. So there was a period of time when we went up to all those restaurants and we signed up around 15,000 odd restaurants, and we realized that's when the next year the renewal sort of happened, and we let go of the ones that were facing a challenge. But I think, to be honest, we were never able to actually play out or see the entire journey as to whether it would have made sense for us or not, because COVID happened. And once COVID happened, I think we all realized that we all have to go back to our roots, and it was a difficult period for all of us.
I still very strongly think that even if COVID had not happened, you would not have made any sense out of Torcus.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with Torcus, right?
Yeah.
Because Zomato also tried. I think they acquired a POS company.
They acquired something. Yeah.
Then they killed it. Then they built their own as well, and they finally had to let go of them as well. I think it had nothing to do with Zomato's tech prowess or their ability. I think it had everything to do with the fact that at the core, Zomato as a company.
No, but I think where the thing is where we felt that we were probably doing it the right way was that whenever we acquired any of these companies, we had the founders on, and we tasked the founders to build it.
So it'll be an unfair comparison. See, I'm not commenting on Zomato's ability to do what they were doing. I'm just saying that at a DNA level, whenever there is a company that starts acquiring any other player as an adjacent play outside of their own DNA, I see it taking a nosedive and failing. I mean, I'm biased, of course, but I saw way too many people doing that, not only in India, by the way.
Yeah, across
the world. Delivery Hero tried that. They bought a breadcrumb, I think was bought by them, had to finally demerge it, let it
But
go.
I think for anyone, and we've seen this with in the US also with Square. See, I think people will start with B2B.
Square was not able to run Caviar, right? It's reverse.
But they wanted to have the ambition of going to B2C, and now the new products that they're doing.
So for the context, Square is a great company.
Yeah.
They built or acquired, I don't know. I think they built something called Caviar, which is a Swiggy Zomato acquired. Swiggy Zomato equivalent there. DoorDash is the largest company there. They finally had to sell it to DoorDash. And they had to sell it to DoorDash, otherwise Caviar would have died. And not because Caviar was doing bad, but it was not doing enough. And it was probably, the lowest market share, sort of company. Because Square ka DNA was not that. For Square, Caviar was just a strategy to acquire payments. And that's where I believe that, any company which is B2C, your customer will remain end customer. And in your case, restaurant remains your partner, in a way. For me, restaurant is the customer.
No, correct.
I don't really care for the end customer beyond restaurant's lens. I care for their customer through their lens only. I don't have a direct.
But for us, the important thing became because while I was sending people, making restaurants realize or understand who their customers were. The only way we could have done it and was through an acquisition, because as I said, without having this integration play, at least in India, so see, that's the other part of the challenge.
It's still
right?
fragmented.
It's so fragmented that, and constantly evolving, constantly changing. We've seen how many POS companies have come and gone, right? And the tech debt to actually do an integration, and then 12 months later realize that this company is not going anywhere and is probably going to shut down in the next 6 months. I think so. That's the challenge that we saw, that we sort of had, and as a result of that, we had to ensure that we were able to make sure that we were able to have our own POS, so that at least, and again, while we were having that, there was nowhere in our mind was that I will only just do this and that. So for us, the larger challenge was to ensure or to assure other POS guys and like Posist, for example, that while I have my own POS, which is Torcus, it's important for me to continue integration with Posist as well.
Yeah,
so that for us,
that's another problem.
Yeah, that for us I think was the larger problem.
But you know what? I think I still see that is a very big problem in India.
Yeah.
And I can say that safely today because I see almost literally entire world, from the restaurant tech space. I think the not addressing the obvious conflict of interest when companies and startups, and especially hyper-funded ones, when they start getting into each other's space, applies to everyone. Not understanding that obvious conflict of interest is something that I see extremely prevalent in India. I don't see that as much outside.
As much, yeah.
At least people acknowledge, okay, conflict hai, so we are not gonna come back to you and ask for that integration. And mostly, companies stay away. They stay in their lanes and they try to, grow there. That said, I feel, and this is a question that I keep wondering, Dineout allows diners to have discounts at the restaurants when they pay through Dineout Pay. Discounts are ridiculous at times. I remember once a colleague of mine was bragging on our office terrace that she went to some bar in Gurgaon and she paid 50%. She got a 50% discount. You guys were running some week or like some offer, right? And I remember I called you, that day because I was just flabbergasted. I was almost telling her that this is not possible, and then she showed me the actual bill and the discount, and it was literally like some 45% or 47%. What is the economics? What exactly is happening? And मेरा इससे भी बड़ा question ये है कि ये discount कौन देता है? Dineout देता है? Dineout Swiggy देता है या restaurant bear करता है या आप share करते हो? कहाँ से आ रहा है ये पैसा? हो क्या रहा है?
So I think your colleague at that point was probably one of the few who got that, because so we run this festival called the Great Indian Restaurant Festival every year, where for a month-long period we give customers a 50% discount. But the caveat is that not every single customer gets that. So every day, only a limited number of people at a restaurant get that discount. So
restaurant week is okay. What is the prevailing discount?
So the prevalent discount, the prevalent discount today, as a consumer, you're happy getting a 20-25% discount. But for us, the most important thing is that when I go to a restaurant at the end of the month, I'm able to show to them what is blended discount for across is. Because the other point to note is that again, not every single customer that who uses Dineout gets a discount, because someone can reserve a table and go but not end up paying. That person doesn't get a good discount. Or someone goes on a Saturday, for example, and we have dynamic discounts, right? So a customer will get a discount maybe will get a 25% discount on a Wednesday, but maybe only get a 5% or 10% discount on a Saturday, but nothing on a Sunday, for example.
So are you saying that if I reserve on Dineout, but do not use Dineout Pay,
then you would not get a discount?
I won't get a discount, is fair. But will you still attribute that revenue to Dineout? Because I
absolutely. The customer attribution to the restaurant will be through Dineout. Fair. So overall, at a blended restaurant level, when we go to them, we're able to show to them three things, right? One, what is their share of the discount? Second, we've got some great banking partners. So HDFC, for example, has been a long-standing partner, which funds a large portion of the discount. So, for example, if you have an Infinia, HDFC Infinia, you get a 15% discount on top of the restaurant discount. And then we have some discounts which are funded by Swiggy Dineout as a platform, right? So overall, blended, when we go to the restaurant at the end of the month, it works in his favor, because the average restaurant out of pocket works out to be anywhere between 15 to 20%, not more than that. And that is something today we feel that the restaurant is comfortable with, and that's something again that we attribute over the last few years, or the 7-8 years, ensuring that how a restaurant thinks has changed, right? So earlier, a restaurant was spending money on marketing without any attribution. That's just wasted money. Today, I tell him that at the end of the day, it's an affiliate fee, right? That's the way you have to think about it, that I am sending you traffic, you're not paying me anything for marketing, and you're paying me only for the people who are actually visiting, right? So, and that ultimately is what makes sense. The restaurants, as I said, we work with nearly all of the restaurants across, or the top restaurants across the country, and that's something that they've now baked into their P&L. But having said that, it's taken us like nearly 10 years to get here to ensure that that restaurants think like that. And today, if we think about our journey, right, we were the pioneers of this. We started this off, 10 years back. Now everyone,
Why don't you see competition?
no, we do. So there is obviously,
No. Why don't you see new competition springing up in this area? Or do I not see that?
I think consumer is the most important thing, right? What we've over the last 10 years, we built a great consumer base. I think what happens is that and now a lot lesser, but if I go back 5 years in time, like 2015, 16, when capital hit India, right? Every quarter I used to see a new platform coming up on this discover restaurant platform side, coming with crazy discount. But the point is, it becomes very difficult to sustain. Like competition anywhere and any other industry here, there will be a period where you have 8-10 companies come in, but ultimately 1 or 2 are going to survive. So for two things for us, right? Because we were part of Times Internet, that helped us sustain. The second is we always focused on the unit economics. If it is too good to be true, it is too good to be true, and someone is going to be unhappy about it. Today, the great thing about where Dineout is from a restaurant perspective is that we have a great relationship. Everyone understands that I'm not going to be out of pocket like crazy. Even that 50% discount that we give in our festivals is a month long, which is only for a select consumers, right? So I think that is very important to understand. Having said that, the consumer promise will not change. So I think the one thing that we've always focused upon, and because we are again, we don't own a product, right? We're a service platform. We've spent a lot of operational hours ensuring that the consumer gets the same experience or the same. He's never denied a discount. He's ensured that he gets into a habit of.
Although we are, part of the industry, we power the restaurants at the back end and we integrate with, every player. But then I feel that all the online ordering players, reservation, payment players, Indian customer ko we, have spoiled by telling them that if you are going to use any app for anything, ordering, reservation, payment, etc., it's going to be discounted. Going to be discounted. I don't see that behavior anywhere in the world. None.
But I will tell you the main difference between that behavior when it comes to dining out and for everything else, whether it's online shopping, e-commerce, whether it is food delivery, everywhere.
Everything. I'm only talking about restaurants.
So restaurants, food. So everything else happens when the customer is sitting at his home. When you order from Swiggy Zomato, you're used to a discount, but
that's fair.
The biggest problem, and again, this is very important for us, having been there for the last 11 years. When I'm out with friends, it's a social validation, right? You're at a restaurant, you're about to pay, and if you get denied, people might think that it's a small problem, but if you're with your family, friends, whatever, and restaurant, you say, okay, I'll pay, and the restaurant comes here, sorry sir, hum nahi lete, ya sorry, aapko discount nahi mila. That social embarrassment.
No, I'm asking something else. I'm just saying that why is, Indian consumer being trained by everyone that if you're going to use it, you're going to get discount.
No, because Indians are
because I don't see that anywhere in the world, right? There is no validation required. Everywhere in the world, the validation, if at all, in front of your guests or whoever you are entertaining, it's the fact that you had the table reserved, like the best table or whatever, right? It is never that you're going to get discount. I personally feel that there is a massive disservice being done to the restaurants in the name of bringing traffic, and I count everybody in that. So I'm asking, how do you think about it? Because an average consumer has become a discount monger. It has just amplified.
I think that's because of the simple fact that we Indians are trained that way from the beginning. When our mothers used, you go to the local market to buy vegetables. Dhania mirchi, wo 10 rupees ke item pe bhi aapko 1 rupee ka free. My point is that people have been trained that way, and I think Indians love it. So there was a period in our journey when we were speaking to investors and everyone, to raise money and all. And everyone said, okay, you're playing on your back of discounts, and we want to shy away. We did not want to own the fact that as a platform, we don't, it's not because of discounts that consumers come to us. It's because of X, Y, Z. But after having gone through this journey, I realized that one thing that we cannot change, and it's not about discount. See, I think the point is that it's not about discount. The Indian mindset is, by that discount is actually represents, I've got the better of someone else. I'm smarter than the other guy because I've been able to get extra value. And that is the role that discount plays. It helps us consumers feel just a little bit good about ourselves, feel a little bit extra, like a bit special about ourselves. That's the role discount plays. And whoever shies away from the fact, Sorry, just completing the point. The point is that people wanted to run away from this for a long time. There have been sort of multiple movements around this. People have said, "Nahi, discount is a bastardized or discount mat use karo, ye aisa hai, वैसा." But ultimately, यार सबको India में ना समझ में आता है. And what I've realized is that now that discount has become the cost of doing business. So the point is that when you go to, and let's talk about the restaurant right today. From a transparency perspective, from a menu pricing perspective, a restaurant sell a pint of beer, Kingfisher Ultra, you'll find it at 150 rupees also, you'll find it at 450 rupees also. So because there is free pricing in a restaurant, I think at least from a restaurant's perspective, and I'm not talking about any other industry, a restaurant is free to price their dish at whatever they want. It's the consumer ultimately who's visiting. I think restaurants are baked in that discount overall.
I'm not, that's what I'm saying. Just to qualify that again, I don't think I'm saying your restaurant owner bichara hai. Or online service restaurant owner ka. I am just saying that restaurant owner bhi business owner hai. Online services bhi business owner hai. I am making a point which is very clear that the behavior which is fueled by online players and of course by restaurateur, they are also the partner, they're the partner in crime. I'm saying amplification of this habit of looking for discount, ordering food when it is discounted, always looking for discount. I remember there was a restaurant owner who was telling me something very disturbing. This guy was experimenting with some low-cost platters during the lunch hours. Uska lunch bahut zyada nahi tha. And very high-quality restaurant, good quality food. And this guy basically said, I sell my curry chawal platter for 99 rupees. And he used to have X amount of sales. He said one day, made that platter to be 140. And gave, I don't know, 40 rupees discount. So effectively it turned out to be 110. He said, my sale increased. This is disturbing. Because at 99 rupees, people were buying, but just because 150 ka 40 rupaya discount aa raha hai, which is a very large percentage of discount, suddenly sales went up. So for me, what I was gathering from that is that how corrupt the consumer is getting in their minds while scrolling the apps. Because they are now not buying kadhi chawal. They are actually almost buying a discount.
But I think that's the behavior. I don't think it's just the attribution to online platforms or Swiggy, Zomato, I think that's everywhere, right? I think
restaurant owners as well. As I said,
it's any industry. I think consumer at the end of the day, and because
very peculiar to India is what I'm saying.
Absolutely, it is very peculiar. So see, the point is that in the Western world, if someone is giving a discount, the consumer might think, yeah, discount they might not be doing that well, or they might be as a business, if they're forced to give a discount, they're struggling. Whereas in India, the other mindset is there that if he's not giving a discount, I'll not go. Spoken about the restaurant and everything and how they're able to give discounts. I think what would be interesting to know or understand is also, again, I'm coming from a lens where obviously a consumer business, expensive to run. It's a flywheel where you have to constantly attract, consumers. Cost of acquisition is there, and we're playing in a field where obviously digital is where we spend a lot of our money. So to get to those customers, we've had to raise money constantly, right? And that's one of the perils of being a sort of a B2C company, that you obviously you'll have your product market fit and you'll start generating your revenues and all, but you need to be obviously have a good enough bank balance with good enough funding to have be there. And in our journey, we've been lucky enough that obviously we raised some money early on, then we were part of Times Internet where we were sustained through them, well funded, and then now for the last year and a half with Swiggy, and obviously so now we've seen phases where as a small startup, as a mid-sized company who's funded, who's acquired, but still running independently, money in the bank to grow, and now seen the other side of where obviously Swiggy being one of the most, I would say, probably the top 10 funded startups in the ecosystem. So we've seen that journey and we understand how and what it is. It's interesting to know on the other side of it, obviously, how it is, and I think I personally obviously have a lot of respect for founders who've been able to sustain for the last 11 years being bootstrapped. It's absolutely amazing. So how does that play out? Like what is the thought? Because for us, the problem is that if we have to constantly perform, and every month I have to beat previous months, and every quarter I have to beat previous quarters, because if I don't, then I'm under constant pressure. And for us, COVID from that perspective was really bad, because obviously we know that the restaurant industry went to zero, and business took a standstill, but our cost did not. So from that perspective, it was really important for us to ensure that how we cut down on a cost during COVID. And then obviously post-COVID has been a different journey altogether, where the industry boomed, there was revenge consumption, and that is what led to our acquisition with Swiggy. But obviously there was a lot of this, back of the mind, that what if this prolongs for 6 months, what's going to happen? So how does it feel to be from a bootstrap perspective, founder's perspective?
Yeah, bootstrapping, as you explained, right? Bootstrapping is actually difficult exactly in the same way on the other side as well, which is, on one side, there is no external pressure, technically. Right? It looks like there is no external pressure. But the problem is that it's almost the same problem with being your own boss. Problem is that being your own boss कहना बहुत अच्छा लगता है, पर जब आपको खुद का बॉस बनना पड़ता है, तो इसका मतलब ये है कि खुद पे डंडा चलाना है. The most difficult job in the world. I think every entrepreneur who does not have somebody who they are answerable to, let's say, especially in the hierarchy, you're always answerable to your customers, your employees, your team, your a lot of people. But then if somebody in hierarchy is not above you that you're answerable to, then deep inside you're like, yaar, koi agar hota na danda chalane ko, so shayad I would have been a little more disciplined about it. It's a challenge, 180 degree out, but a very different magnitude of challenge that you need to continuously prove yourself. Probably on the other side, I feel that when you have continuous quarter-on-quarter pressure, at least somebody is validating and invalidating both, right? You can be under nerve-wracking pressure, but at least somebody said, dude, you fucked up, right? But when you are your own boss, practically in a bootstrap venture, you also rationalize and justify your crap. So you have to be your own danda.
And how do you deal with that?
So I think that first of all, मेरे को bootstrap versus, I would want to demystify that. मुझे ये bootstrap versus funded debate बिल्कुल poor debate लगती है. मतलब I don't agree with it. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि यार venture build करने के लिए having money is a resource. It is almost like having time. It's almost like having more people. If more people are not going to solve your problem, more time is not going to solve your problem, more money is also not going to solve your problem. And same way, when you need money, you need money. When you need people, you need people. And when you need time, you need time. So it's really about balancing this out. If anybody tells us कि oh वाह आपने किसी के आगे हाथ नहीं फैलाया, और I don't have that sentiment. My sentiment is that we bootstrapped, we survived, and we survived healthily. We have seen worst days, but then my funded friends have seen worse days as well.
Yeah.
And we have seen brilliant days.
Anyway, so I think what Ashish is trying to say is he's open to money.
No. No, yes, why not?
Well, of course.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Growth capital is good capital.
Today, for me, money has a color. There's another side of the story as well. There are a lot of people for funding, they say, which is the pro-funding debate, कि funding के बिना तो बन नहीं सकता, money has no color, पैसा मिल रहा है तो उठा लो.
More than color, I think money has a lot of responsibility.
Money has color. Money has color, and that color comes from the ambition of the one who's giving you. If you're not matching that color right now, tomorrow you're going to look like a clown and entire city is going to recognize that. So I think for me, money comes from your own pocket. It comes from debt. It comes from friends and family. It comes from customers. It comes from all different kinds of debt instruments. It can come from an investor. It can come from an angel. It can come from a VC. For me, each kind of money comes with a certain promise. So far, at a certain stage, whatever money you will require can come from any of these sources and matches the color of your ambition and their ambition. Please take it, move ahead. But just taking money for the sake of taking money can screw you madly. Now, on the positive side, I feel really happy about the fact that we bootstrapped, because in our journey, there were at least 5 different times in last 11 years where we took extremely risky calls from an outside perspective. But from an inside perspective, these were the most logical calls, wherein we said, hey, we were at top of our game when we were doing SMBs in India, right? Our product was extremely differentiated. We were doing extremely well. Our product was always robust. Customers loved us. And then we said, hey, you know what? We are going to do mid-market. We are going to stop doing SMBs. Then we said, hey, we are going to do enterprise. Then we said, hey, we are going to go outside of India. We are going to raise our...
You had the freedom to make choice. Yeah.
And these choices, I don't know, but if I had a VC on board,
it would have been difficult.
Would have been extremely difficult for the right reasons. Because VC also has, an LP, to
Yeah.
answer to. So I appreciate the challenge there. I feel that जिसको जैसा जमे, जो जैसा चला सके, उसको वैसे चलाना चाहिए.
Absolutely.
Bootstrapped versus funded में मरने में शहादत मिलती है, पर मरने वालों को कोई याद नहीं रखता. I also believe that चाहे आप bootstrapped हो चाहे funded हो, ये जो go big और go home प्रॉब्लम है, fail fast, fail often, ये जो सब
जो आजकल क्लीशेस बन गए सारे, जो
ये सारे क्लीशेज से मुझे डर इसलिए लगता है. इसका ये मतलब नहीं है that I'm saying कि don't fail और I'm saying that don't go big. बट भाई साहब ऐसा है कि failing and going home, जरा एक बार आप उन लोगों से बात करो who failed and went home.
So I think that is what I think between and both of us, right? I think that last 11 years, मैं वही बोल रहा हूँ ना, जो 11 साल के जो rigor है, that is what matters. रगड़ाई है वो, that matters, because I think what I see with a lot of young entrepreneurs today, and you've done investments, angel investments, I've done angel investments. Between us, we have some great companies as well, and we have some companies that have not done particularly well as well. I think the problem has become that now, because but doing a startup has become like a keyword, right? And it's become like norm accepted. I think वो लोगों को वो feeling आ गई है कि यार responsibility. What I believe, what I've seen at least, is that when I had taken money from someone, I felt a huge sense of responsibility कि यार मैं पैसे लिए हैं. आजकल ना वो मुझे लगता है वो responsibility चली है.
ऐसा I disagree with that. The way I look at it is कि यार पहली बात, startup करना इतना difficult है. इतना डिफिकल्ट है. सिर्फ 3 साल स्टार्टअप का टैग लगा के अगर कोई खड़ा रह के भी मुझे दिखा सकता है ना, ग्रो करने की जरूरत नहीं है. सिर्फ जिंदा रहना है स्टार्टअप का टैग लगा के, करते हुए, कुछ भी करते हुए, मैं मान जाऊंगा. इट इज डिफिकल्ट. People who are doing it for fashion, I think they evaporate faster than they germinate. So that is okay. I think responsibility मुझे लगता है कि कम नहीं हुई है. Number of people suddenly have gone so much, like so vast, who are trying to start up, that the responsible ones look small in percentage.
Is gone, yeah.
I personally think that the ones who are doing great, or ones who don't have a plan B, ones who are continuously thinking about what they are doing, they will figure it out, and they are figuring it out.
They are probably the unsung heroes of the ecosystem.
I don't think they need singing. They need customers, they need revenue, they need probably funding from the right sources. So many startup founders, when they come to me, I generally tell them, see, if you are coming to me for funding, अगर मेरे पैसे से तेरा कुछ भला होने वाला है, तो तेरा वैसे भी बहुत बुरा हो रहा है, क्योंकि मेरे टिकट साइज से तो तेरा कुछ होगा नहीं. मेरे पास अगर तू आ रहा है, tell me what is the value that I can bring on table. Money is the minimum lowest value that I can bring, and if you really only want money, then you are better off taking money from a professional money source who has large coffers. I'm a small guy who puts small checks. So I think startup overall, people are becoming better. The amount of people that are coming in are large, but वो सब धुल जाते हैं. They evaporate very, very fast.